Man, oh man, what's up, y'all? Listen, listen. So, y'all know it's a new year. We're blessed to see a new year. We're blessed to be a part of a new year. But we still dealing with these old problems. You know, it's a problem for all of us when you talk about how this grooming thing is going in Hollywood. It's a problem for all of us because a lot of our children and so on and so forth are aspiring to be some type of entertainer, right? So we're going to be having to deal with this for years and years to come. All of this, I have nothing against whatever a person chooses as their so-called sexuality. That's on them. I have a problem with when they're sexually abusing children as part of this quest to explore sexuality. That's what I have a problem with. So you get, again, I've talked about this on three separate shows now about this guy, P. Diddy. And I never wanted to just falsely accuse anyone without having any other facts. But now a lot of the facts are coming out and it's being shown that this brother has been on some devious down low stuff for years. And it has been many people who have come out against him. And I also want to talk about this guy named Aaron Hall. For those of us who remember Aaron Hall from the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, you know, I want to talk about Aaron Hall. I want to talk about Clive Davis, Andre Harrell. I want to talk about Pharrell. I want to talk about some of these people whom I want to talk about Justin Bieber too. You know, L.A. Reid. I want to talk about some of these people because if you know any of the history of some of these people, you will see how all of these people are connected to this sex ring in Hollywood. All of them. You know, you talk about, for example, we're going to start from the hierarchy on down that I know of the hierarchy being because we know it's powers that be behind the scenes that I may not know about. But we talking about Clive Davis, for example. Here's Clive Davis. He was the owner of Arista Records. Arista Records was a big label that owned other subsidiary labels such as Bad Boy. Now, Clive Davis is like 92 years old now, maybe 93. And Clive Davis, he after his second failed marriage, he said he began to explore men. He wanted to see could he be attracted to men. This is what he said during an interview. It's in his book as well. So this is not just something that I'm saying. Clive Davis said that after his second failed marriage, he wanted to explore whether or not he can be attracted to men. Now, let's break that down for a second before I go any further. Now, if you don't have any tendencies in the beginning, then you already know that you're not attracted to the same sex if you don't have those tendencies. In order for you to even confabulate such a thought, have the audacity to have such a thought, you must already possess that curiosity, that tendency to even want to explore an attraction to the same sex. And now, let me say this again. I have nothing against whatever you choose as your sexuality, that's on you. Just don't impose it on me. We good. That's not the reason why I'm on here talking about this. I'm on here talking about this because I'm talking about the residual abuse, the SAN and the R's of so many people in this industry, the rituals. And so now we talk about Clive Davis, who was the who was the founder of Arista Records. Puffy is said, this is alleged, Puffy allegedly came to him in the 90s when he wanted to get Bad Boy started. Now, at the time, there was this other guy who mentored Puffy that Puffy give honors to right now. His name was Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell worked up under Clive Davis. It was said that Andre Harrell and Clive Davis was in a romantic relationship. That's how Andre Harrell got in such a high position in Arista Records. And I think it was Uptown Records or something. So now, from there came this guy named Diddy or Puffy in 1994. It is alleged, and I clarify, it is alleged that Puffy proposed a sexual favor with Clive Davis, who by this time people already knew was kind of experimenting with sex with men, his attraction. So Puffy allegedly proposed to perform a sexual favor on Clive Davis to help him get Bad Boy Records off the ground. Now, this was alleged many years ago, and it's just coming out today that Puffy did this. Now you go from Clive Davis, and we already talked about Quincy Jones back in the days, in the 60s and 70s. Quincy Jones groomed Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson is alleged to have groomed a lot of young boys, And notice I said no girls, all young boys. Michael Jackson is alleged to have groomed a lot of young boys because his mentor, which was Quincy Jones, all he ever mentored and groomed was boys. So like his mentor, Michael Jackson groomed a lot of young boys. So now a new era come into play because what was established in the 60s, which Clive Davis was involved with then as well, facts and evidence already shows that he was involved in this whole Hollywood scene way back then. So now Quincy Jones, Clive Davis, they've been grooming these young men for years and decades. So Clive Davis grooms Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell become best friends or close friends with none other than Puffy. Puffy wants to get Bad Boy record label off the ground, and so he proposed a sexual favor with Clive Davis. And so now, somehow, some way, Bad Boys just take off. It just take off in the 90s, like 94, 95, it just took off, blew up. And no one could really account for the quick success of Bad Boy until now all of these allegations are coming out and all of the connections are being made. Because before now, the people on the outside looking in, such as me and you, we wasn't privy to all of the information that is coming out now. We weren't privy to this, but now we're privy. And so now we speak about it. So now you go from Clive Davis, Andre Harrell, Puffy. And now you have someone that sent Usher to Puffy. Do you all know who sent Usher to Puffy? He said he wanted to send Usher to Puffy's flavor camp. What in the hell is that? The flavor camp. I never heard of the flavor camp. So now the person who sent Usher to Puffy's flavor camp is none other than L.A. Reid from LaFace Records, who is also a part of that lineage of Clive Davis. So he sent, and if you know anything about LaFace Records, they are one of the greatest and biggest R&B and soul music record labels out. They wrote for many people and produced many people, including Anita Baker's and Tony Braxton's and Mariah Carey. They produced for everybody. And so L.A. Reid sends Usher to P. Diddy, to Puffy's flavor camp. What does that mean? He never explained. It still hasn't come out, the true definition of the flavor camp. But what we can surmise from it is that it has something to do with grooming. It had to have something to do with grooming because Puffy said he took Usher under his wing. And Usher's own words was this here. Usher said that Puffy took him under his wing. That's right, Babyface. L.A. Reid, Babyface. And Babyface, one of my favorite singers, but y'all see how he look. And I'm just being real. I love the brother. I love his music. But y'all see how he look, his mannerisms. L.A. Reid mannerisms for that matter. So now, P. Diddy or Puffy takes Usher under his wing at the flavor camp, and they engage in things that Puffy said no one is to know about except him and Usher. Right. Okay. So here's a little boy, 14 and 15 years old, that only you and him are supposed to know about stuff. Where's the parents at? Another subject. So Usher, in his own words, said that Puffy took him with him so that he can experience the life. Experience the life. So one of the reporters asked Usher, so did you experience the life? Usher said, yeah, I seen some stuff. He really said, I seen some stuff that no child should ever see. So a reporter later asked Usher this question. He said, would you send your child to Puffy's flavor camp? Usher said, hell no. But if it's such an upstanding and professional environment, why wouldn't you send your children to Puffy's flavor camp? Well, let me tell you why. Because you have Usher, who was groomed by P. Diddy. You have P. Diddy, who was groomed by Andre Harrell. You have Andre Harrell, who was groomed by Clive Davis. You have Quincy Jones, the godfather of sex rituals and grooming in Hollywood, who is so close to Puffy. Then you have Quincy Jones, who was known to make sexual advances toward Tupac. Will Smith. Clive Davis is behind some of the biggest name people as well. Quincy Jones too. So now you see how this web is forming. It's a large web, but I'm not even done yet. So now you go from Clive Davis, who's, behind the scenes with Jimmy Iovine and all them guys. And you have a guy named Michael Jackson. Then you have a guy named Tevin Campbell. Wow, Tevin Campbell, huh? So you have a guy named Tevin Campbell. Clive Davis's #1 artist of all times is a female, though. Her name was Whitney Houston. That was his #1 artist of all times. Whitney Houston got turned out somehow. Church girl. Family says she never engaged in any drugs, alcohols, anything growing up. Got under Clive Davis's wing. Became his most successful artist, his biggest artist, #1 artist. She's turned out. She ended up meeting someone who helped turn her out even more, in Bobby Brown. And so why am I saying all of this? Why do it look like I'm veering away from the S-A-N and the R-N in Hollywood? Because all of this is interconnected. Because now we talk about, we done went from Clive to Harrell, Puffy. We done went down to Quincy, making proposals at Tupac. Will Smith is involved. I know y'all heard Jamie Foxx is involved. Jamie Foxx put it on blast. He said, man, Puffy be having some wild parties. But he was there though. Puffy be having some wild parties. Now, who else was there? We already know about Brother T.D. Jakes. Brother T.D. Jakes, instead of just admitting that he was there, you know, in a place that he shouldn't have been, but because these were his friends, he wanted to keep saying he wasn't there when his video showing that he was there. So we have these brothers. And now these pastors of these churches, especially these mega churches, whom the church community confide in so much, now they're divided because a lot of our young boys look up to these pastors because these pastors appear to be strong men. So a lot of our young children, our male children, look up to these pastors. And what happens? We really don't know because right now, all we know is that Hollywood grooms young men. And they groom young women, but we're talking about the young men right now. Because now you can talk about, they say, why is this plague over Black Hollywood, Black musicians? Because we sell our soul for fame. We sell our soul. Puffy wanted to get on so bad, get his record label off the ground so bad that he made a proposal to Clive Davis, a sexual proposal to Clive Davis, knowing that Clive Davis was already bisexual, had a love for women, had a love for men, and he made this proposal to Clive Davis. So now, Puffy engaged in this. And Puffy knew because his right-hand man and mentor was Andre Harrell. So now, just recently, it's all over the web right now that Puffy has been in a relationship, a romantic relationship with Clive Davis for many years now. This is all over social media. That P. Diddy has been in a relationship with Clive Davis for many years. Clive Davis is one of the most powerful record execs in the world. Puffy is said or alleged to have been in a romantic relationship with him for years now. The same rumor that existed with Andre Harrell. So Andre Harrell knew everything about Clive because he was romantically tied to Clive. And now his friend, P. Diddy, who wants to get his record label off the ground, becomes romantically tied to Clive. And now P. Diddy puts out artists, great artists, and Biggie Small and Help Faith and Help Kim and a few others, Craig Mack and a few of those groups that he tried to put together that, you know, they kind of fell apart and they began talking bad about P. Diddy as well. And P. Diddy goes to grooming, mentoring Usher, taking Usher to strip clubs at 14 and 15. Now, that's immoral conduct in itself. That right there is grooming in itself. You can't get around that. That's grooming when you take a child to such a place, to an adult place like that, so the child can see things that a child should not see. You are grooming that child. And so now we go to talk about how this stuff is destroying Black Hollywood. It's destroying the hopes of a lot of young Black actors and actresses and musicians. Because you get down from Usher, Tevin Campbell, to how Usher groomed Justin Bieber. Usher gave Justin Bieber to P. Diddy. And what did P. Diddy say? P. Diddy said, I'm keeping him with me. He in my custody for 2 days. He going through my camp. What camp is that, P. Diddy? Because the only camp that we know about is some sexual camp. That's the only camp that we know about. So now, Justin Bieber is now in P. Diddy's custody for 2 days. P. Diddy promised to let him drive his Lamborghini when Justin Bieber turned 16, which was a year later. He told Justin Bieber that he would give him the mansion when he turned 18. What in the? So you're going to let him drive your car and you're going to give him mansion. And you really don't know this little guy. You met him through Usher, but you can trust Usher because you the one groomed Usher. No different than Andre Harrell can trust you because he the one groomed you. No different than Clive Davis can trust Andre Harrell because he the one groomed Andre Harrell. No different than Quincy Jones can trust Will Smith because he helped groom Will Smith. See how all this stuff is tied in, and then Will Smith ends up marrying Jada. Jada is still to this day in love with Tupac. Tupac is someone who Quincy Jones tried to groom, although Tupac was involved with Quincy Jones's daughter. And now you go into the Smith home and you wonder why the daughter is a certain way and the son is a certain way. The son got up on stage, Jaden got up on stage a couple years ago and pronounced to the whole audience at the concert that his boyfriend was Tyler, the Creator. And everybody know that Tyler, the Creator, has come out as gay. Again, I'm not bashing them at all. I'm not bashing them at all. I'm begging the question of what's going on in these households. Are some of these stars grooming their own children, Dwayne Wade? Are they grooming their own children? Are they giving their own children over to groomers in sacrifice for fame? Because that's what it appears to be. No, that's what it is. It don't just appear that way. That's what it is. So now we wonder why Pharrell looked the way he looked. We talking about S.A.N. and Arn in Hollywood grooming. See, no one wants to talk about how R. Kelly is in prison right now. But who was his right-hand man at one point when he was out here? Y'all know who it is. Jay-Z. They made records together. They even talked about some of the very things that R. Kelly is locked up for now. They even talked about on record. Come on. Come on. Jaguar Wright be putting all this stuff out there too. 50 Cent be putting all this stuff out there. A lot of these women out here put a lot of this stuff out there. We don't listen to them because we always cast them aside and say they just mad because he didn't choose them. No, well, maybe they didn't choose him because they knew what he was up to. They knew what some of these guys was up to. These women can see between the lines, read between the lines. They can see this stuff. They can see that Puffy a long time ago looked like he was, he was bisexual or something. And no one was against it. We're only against the sexual assault and the sexual abuse of these young men that's going on in Hollywood, and it's being highlighted. It's being glamorized. You know, these young men are being sacrificed. It's a long line of them. These are just some of the ones that we know about. These are just some of the ones that we know about. Clive Davis turning out Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell being so cool with Diddy, being his mentor. All of a sudden, it comes out all on social media today that Diddy has been allegedly been in a relationship with Clive Davis for years. Come on, man. We've been acting like we've been blind this whole time. The key words is acting like we've been blind, because we ain't been blind. We know what we're looking at. We just refuse to say what we're looking at because we like a person's their music, their personality, or whatever the situation may be. It don't take away from the fact that they are engaging in essaying and R-ing and grooming young boys. It don't take away from the fact. We already know that P. Diddy had this flavor camp that he never explained what goes on in the flavor camp. We know that. We already know that Clive Davis was and probably still is one of the most powerful record execs in the world today. And that he had an affinity for black women and men. He's expressed it himself. This is not my words. This is something that he expressed himself. He groomed people. And let me say something about grooming. We all do some type of grooming in our lives. If you like someone, you begin to say certain things, and what you're doing is you really groom them, soften them up. You say sweet nothings to someone. We all been through it. So we're not saying that anything is wrong with, we're not applying a negative stigma to the word grooming. We're attaching violation to the grooming of young boys for sexual reasons. That's what we're talking about. That's called sexual assault. That's called rape, sexual abuse. That's what we're talking about. So I'm not talking about anyone's sexuality per se, because you get to choose what you want to choose. I may not agree with it. So what? But that's your life. And so here we are today, and it's like I sit up and, I mean, somebody tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody say Jaguar is not credible. I didn't say she was credible. I just said that I know just from some of the stuff that Jaguar Wright has said that she's all the way on point. Because we know that she can't know everything because she wasn't in the room. But we know that she knows something because she's in the industry. So it makes a difference from a person talking about it from my perspective and a person talking about it from her perspective, because she's been in the room or the industry. Maybe not in the room when something transpired, but she knows people who may have been in that room. I don't know anyone who's been in that room. And we know that some people, they're going to leave, Hollywood is going to leave some people ungroomed. They don't want to try to groom everybody because they need somebody to vouch for them. When the stuff hit the fan, they need somebody that's going to vouch for them and say, no, that ain't his character. He never did that to me. He never blah, blah, blah. He never this. He's always been a nice guy. He's always did this. He's always been humble with everybody. So they're not going to try to groom everybody. They're not going to do that. Because then their tinsel coat will fall apart. And they got to keep their cover. They got to keep their cover. They can't keep their cover if they're trying to groom everybody. It would just be get all out of hand. And it would cause an uproar. Kind of like what you're seeing right now. Whereas P. Diddy tried to have that polished coat for so long, and everybody knew that his coat wasn't polished. And deep down inside, there are people out here that knew that this day was coming, that people would be exposed. And let me just mention this here. And I'm gonna call a spade on this for real, as I do always on any subject. But this one here requires a certain type of attention. This guy Aaron Hall, right? Now, the allegation was that the girl said that P. Diddy and Aaron Hall R''d her when she was younger, right? Now, P. Diddy is saying all of this stuff is categorically false, right? You get this guy Aaron Hall, who basically contradicted everything P. Diddy said. He just dry snitched and everything else, just running his head. Talking about how when he first seen Gloria Velez, who is now his child's mother, when he first seen her, this is what his interview, he said this on Velati's podcast. He said, ask Fat Joe, ask Big Pun, ask them guys. They'll tell you how I got her. I seen her, I got out the limousine, I grabbed her, I took her upstairs, and I effed her. Just like that. By the way, Gloria Velez was 16 years old at the time. He said he pulled up in a limousine. He seen her, he grabbed her, took her upstairs, and he effed her. That was that. She was 16 at the time. But yet, here it is, P. Diddy is trying to fight for his life and saying that these allegations of R''ing this young lady with Aaron Hall is all false. And here's Aaron Hall making all matters worse, running his head. And that's how people end up in prison for the rest of their life, because people don't know how to keep their mouth shut. Aaron Hall been abusing women. If you just listen to that interview that he did with Velati, and he talked about the women in such a despicable way. Listen, he's so misogynistic, egotistic. I mean, he's despicable. Just by the way that he described women, he's despicable. He's a despicable individual. And so now when you pair him to Puffy or P. Diddy, now it does make P. Diddy look terrible too. Terrible. Because Aaron Hall clearly stated that he's a nasty man. You know what I'm saying? He talked about how he snatched up a 16-year-old, took her upstairs, and he effed her. And that was that. He didn't ask her, he didn't do nothing. He took her, got out the limousine, grabbed her hand, took her upstairs, and that's what he did to her. And now this young girl is saying P. Diddy and Aaron Hall R''d her in the 90s. And P. Diddy is saying it didn't happen. The girl is saying it did happen. Aaron Hall is saying that that's the type of stuff that he do. And he's proud of it. He's proud of it. That's the bad part. He's proud of it. And now you're talking about character. You're talking about character. If you want to know someone's character, watch the friends they're around. And so now we're talking about friendships now. Aaron Hall, he didn't mince his words. Nothing about him can be misconstrued. Nothing about him can be even mildly considered as a nice guy. Nothing. If you heard his interview with Velati, he was so terrible, so despicable in how he talked about women, described women. I mean, I was flabbergasted because I used to love his music. But to hear him talk like that, man, it was just a letdown of moral. And so now that's Puffy's friend, or P. Diddy's friend. P. Diddy was at parties with him. Aaron Hall even tried to go at Luke Skywalker and say that, because Luke Skywalker is the one who introduced Gloria Velez to Aaron Hall, because Gloria Velez used to be in the videos, and he was introducing the guy to Gloria Velez to be in videos. And so him and Aaron Hall and Luke Skywalker end up having a few words, because Luke Skywalker said, man, I'm the one who introduced you to this girl. And Aaron Hall said, no, you ain't the one who introduced me to her. I pulled up on her. I seen her. I got out the limousine, grabbed her, and I took her upstairs and effed her, and that's that. That's how we got to know each other. Luke Skywalker said, yeah, anyway. So Aaron Hall used to go to Luke Skywalker's peep shows where it was like orgies. And Luke Skywalker said that he have the videotapes right now to prove it, that he told Aaron Hall one day, Aaron Hall, you not nastier than R. Kelly. R. Kelly, the truth, singing, all that type of stuff. His lyrics, Aaron Hall says, no, R. Kelly ain't freaky like me. And Luke Skywalker say, Aaron Hall then began to rim a girl out, rim her out right there at the orgy party. And so now I'm saying that to say that these are the type of parties that this group of people attend. They attend these type of parties. These women, these men that goes to these type of parties have to be coaxed in some way, groomed in some way. You don't just meet this man on the street, this girl on the street, say, hey man, come with me to this party. And you take them to this type of party. They have to be groomed, right? So when we talk about little children like Usher, he had to be groomed. He had to be introduced because his mind wasn't formed enough. He was a child. You could take a child to that type of party because the child is only following behind the adult. The person, especially in this case, the adult that he idolized. So Puffy took him here. He took Justin Bieber to places. Justin Bieber has struggled with alcoholism and drug addiction for years now. Come on. When are we going to open our eyes up? When are we going to stand up against this type of sexual abuse, sexual psychological abuse? I'm talking about people like Aaron Hall, who is just despicable in how he described the women. Should never be around another woman a day in his life. Never. P. Diddy, who's grooming little boys, should never be around children again in his life, if any of these allegations are true. Clive Davis never should be around any man in his life, or a woman for that matter. He's 92 anyway. But you get all of these people. Tevin Campbell, he done been through alcoholism and other problems. It's sad. It's sad because here we are today, and we're on the precipice of uniting certain genres and music, and people becoming rising from just being a musician to being an actor, and it's amazing the sacrifices that people are making just to be a part of the elite. I'm talking about right now, the documents coming out from Epstein. The documents coming out with a lot of names on there, and I'm not going to even get off into all the names, but a few notable names is Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. These names are on there. So come on, man. This grooming, this tradition, this ritual. In order to get, growing up, we always heard about the Illuminati, right? We always heard about the Illuminati. And we always thought that the Illuminati had to be the super rich behind the scenes. No, the Illuminati. Somebody say you're not. Somebody say not true about Trump. You're not reading it. Yes, I read it. I heard it. I didn't say that he did anything. I just said his name was in it. So pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I said his name. A couple notable names that was in the documents about Epstein was Trump and Clinton. And we do know some stories about Clinton already, and we do know some stories about Trump already. So, and by the way, I'll be talking about Trump on my next podcast, probably tomorrow or the following day. And so what I was saying was that you have these abuse allegations are just so widespread, and there once was Illuminati was like a wall of power that no one could see beyond this wall because the powers that be existed behind the scenes. And that's kind of true, but then too, the powers that be are sitting right here in our face. The Epsteins, the other guy that got convicted, I forgot the guy, I forgot the white guy who was behind all the movies as well. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to say it on the prompter right here. But you have these guys that we once considered Illuminati to be the people behind the veil, when they're not behind the veil at all. They're not behind. They may be playing behind the scenes as record execs and movie execs, but they're not behind veils. The veil is over our eyes. That's what happened. We looking for people with the veil over their face. When they don't have a veil over their face, we have the veil over our eyes. That's why we can't see what's right in front of our face. That's why we didn't see Andre Harrell and Puffy. We didn't see P. Diddy's relationship with Clive David. We didn't see none of this. We didn't see P. Diddy's relationship with Usher. We didn't see nothing wrong with it. We didn't see from P. Diddy to Usher, from Usher to Justin Bieber. We didn't see that. We missed all of this because the veil was over our eyes. We was looking for the veil to be over somebody else's face, but it was over our eyes. We didn't see that. We didn't see the connection between so many different artists that P. Diddy said he wanted to work with. And a lot of those artists were from the LGBTQ community. And there's nothing wrong with working with them. That's not the topic of the show, so please don't misconstrue what I'm talking about. Something is wrong with if he's trying to work with them, especially the new artists, LGBTQ new artists, to groom them and show them what they have to do in order to gain the fame. Something is wrong with that. When sexual allegations, when sex becomes the path to success through grooming, something is wrong. Something is wrong with that picture. That means that whoever it is that's doing the grooming is sacrificing that, the person that they're grooming, they're sacrificing that person to gain fame. It's no different than someone who recruits people for the jobs. If you can recruit a lot of good people, people are always going to want you on their recruitment team because they're going to say, he puts that work in. 1 second. Mr. Gill. Pop back up for me, Mr. Gill. I got you. And so people watch how others operate, especially in that Hollywood field. See whom you can groom. See whom you can bring in, whom you can mentor to. Because if you have ever been groomed by someone in Hollywood and you can bring some other people in with you, then those who groomed you will just assume that those who you are bringing in, you're grooming them. And when you're grooming them, you are exposing them to other groomers. And that's crazy because something just crossed my mind. It's like prostitution. These predators are like suitors. And these men groom these young boys for other suitors. For other suitors. They prostitute these young boys. That's like sex trafficking. It's like sex trafficking. And it's going on regularly. It's ritualistic in Hollywood. Sex trafficking. We're talking about little boy. We're not talking about the men who engage with men. We're not talking about Clive Davis and P. Diddy and Andre Harrell and Clive Davis or Diddy. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the kids that are being groomed and passed around, such as the little brother Orlando Brown, when he said that P. Diddy put the oosh gosh goosh on him. Why did he just throw Diddy name out there? He said P. Diddy put the oosh gosh goosh on him. Why of all people did he say Diddy? Why would he say Diddy of all people? Because Diddy came into so much power so quickly as the protege to Clive Davis, as the protege to Quincy Jones, as a connection to Will Smith, as a connection to Andre Harrell, as a mentor to Usher. And now you have this young brother who everyone cast away as just being crazy. That little brother, y'all know who I'm talking about, Orlando Brown from That's So Raven show. When they said he was just crazy, struggling with alcohol and all this type of stuff, he wasn't so crazy when he said P. Diddy put that oosh gosh goosh on him. And then he told the story of the panda eyes. The panda eyes. He talked about sexual abuse that goes on in Hollywood, the sacrificing of human bodies that goes on in Hollywood. He talked about this stuff. He talked about this years ago, and no one wanted to listen to him because they regarded him as crazy because he went through certain struggles. But we never looked at it like maybe something happened to him in Hollywood that drove him to be the way he is. Because Justin Bieber said the same thing. Justin Bieber said the same thing. The girl from Danity Kane said the same thing. She talked about what drove her to doing certain things and how she was cast out as just being crazy because she was making allegations against P. Diddy. They said she was just crazy. So now we have to go back, for those of us who are concerned and, bloggers and vloggers and journalists and just people in general who interested in these type of stories. We have to go back to all of the child stars, singers, actors, whatever they were, and listen to some of the interviews, study some of their lives, because some of them was turned out on alcohol and drugs early on in their life. Why? Who introduced them to that? Some of them turned out to be a part of the LGBT community. Some of them came out and said that, yes, they are gay. But only after their stint in Hollywood. Only after their stint in Hollywood did they develop alcohol problems, drug problems, emotional problems, needed to be medicated, and last but not least, came out as gay. A lot of child actors came out that way. That tells the story of grooming in Hollywood. That tells the story of grooming in Hollywood. The big players come out of their bag when they see some young talent. And I'm not talking about a person who know how to sing or act. Because I remember something P. Diddy said on one of them shows that he had, maybe making a band or something. He said, I don't care if you don't know how to sing. He said, if you look good, I'll make it look like you know how to sing. He did that with a lot of them guys. Because a lot of them guys wasn't singing. But I guess they looked good, so he made it look like they knew how to sing. He made it look like they know how to sing. And so I don't want nobody to misunderstand what I'm saying. We talking about, say, I remember him saying that. Yes, he did say that. I remember that. I remember that show. P. Diddy specifically said, I don't care if you don't know how to sing. If you look good, I'll make it look like you know how to sing. And so he had men on his show. So you think he was, because I'm gonna give you a guy that P. Diddy immediately took hold of under his wing, sent them to a dermatologist and all of that. Two guys. And one guy still living today, we can kind of see how his life has developed. But you had Craig Mack, who had very bad skin. Craig Mack, y'all remember him, Flavor in Your Ear. Oh man, now I think about it. They said Puffy's flavor count, right? And Craig Mack's song was called Flavor in Your Ear. It's the brand new flavor in your ear. It come out in like 1992, 93. And then you had, who else did Puffy groom and who had bad skin? And now he took him to a dermatologist and all that and had this guy looking like he can really rap and everything. Young Jock. And I don't know the situation with Young Jock. I could just say that Young Jock never looked comfortable on Bad Boy. I can say that. He never looked comfortable. And he was happy to leave Bad Boy. I wonder why. And so you go from Craig Mack, a young jock on Bad Boy, whom, again, P. Diddy said, I don't care if you don't know how to sing. If you look good, I'll make it look like you know how to sing. So he took them to dermatologists. Don't that kind of remind you of what he told 50 when 50 Cent first came out? He told 50, let me take you shopping. Why you want to take another man shopping? What, do he look good to where you can help his career blow up? Just think of this stuff, man. I'm just thinking of this, man, because he was grooming older men too. So you can imagine what he was doing to younger men. Here's a guy, 50 Cent, from the street, been shot up and in jail and sold stuff on the streets and everything. And P. Diddy had enough gall and audacity to try to take him out and groom him. So if he would try to groom somebody like 50, you already know people like Usher don't stand a chance. Justin Bieber don't stand a chance. Maybe even Young Jock didn't stand a chance with respects to if he ever was trying to move in that direction. Not to say he ever did, because I never heard anything. I'm just saying. But if Puffy had the audacity to think that he could move 50 Cent, a guy whose records show he's from the streets, he's been through a lot of stuff, know a lot of people, but yet P. Diddy seen the potential in 50 Cent to blow up real big. And he tried to take him under his wing and groom him. 50 said himself that P. Diddy tried to propose to take him shopping. He said, man, matter of fact, they was at somebody's wedding. He said, man, what you say to me, man? He said, man, that's something that you would say to a woman. He said, go on, get on away from me, because he said in his mind, he thinking about they gonna mess up this man's wedding, whoever wedding they was at, with P. Diddy asking them some questions like that, trying to take him shopping. So people like Usher don't stand a chance. He was a little kid at the time, 14, 15, looked up to P. Diddy. P. Diddy also knew Michael Jackson. Usher's idol was Michael Jackson. So P. Diddy can feed Usher, man, look, I introduce you to Michael Jackson, but you got to roll with me. You got to be willing to do some of the stuff that I had to do to get to where I'm at. And I introduce you to Michael Jackson. I introduce you to your idol. I even help you make a record with Michael Jackson. I even have you on tour with Michael Jackson. But you got to be willing to do some of the stuff that is necessary to even be in the same room as Michael Jackson. And if you stay with me, I'm going to make sure that you can be in the same room with Michael Jackson. We'll make sure. But you got to stay with me. You got to be willing to sacrifice some of your time and some of who you are to become who you want to be. That's grooming. Usher told the same thing to Justin when he gave Justin to P. Diddy. And P. Diddy ran the same game on that little boy. Excuse me. He ran the same game on that little boy, Justin Bieber, that he ran on Usher. Just think about it. Let me take you shopping, Usher. You think that he ain't tell Usher or propose to Usher and even follow through with Usher to take Usher shopping? If he did the same thing with 50 and 50 wasn't buying it, you don't think that he proposed to take Usher shopping and buy him anything that he wanted, if he was willing to let Justin Bieber drive his $500,000 car, when Justin Bieber turned 16, he said, I'm going to let you drive that car. Here's a little boy that he really don't even know. But he's going to allow this little boy to drive his $500,000 car. He told him, when you turn 18, I'm going to give you that mansion. A little boy that he really don't even know. But he's willing to give him a mansion at 18. So you can just imagine what he told Usher, or what he gave to Usher, or how he funded Usher, how he treated Usher, how he walked and talked with Usher, how we mentored to Usher, how we groomed to Usher. You can just imagine it. If you can't imagine it, something's wrong with your imagination. Because all of this stuff is factual. This stuff is factual. This stuff is evidential. Usher put it out there himself that P. Diddy took him under his wing. P. Diddy put it out there himself that he took Usher under his wing. Usher put it out there himself and said that P. Diddy took him to certain parties, strip clubs at 14 and 15 years old. L.A. Reid put it out there himself when he said he sent Usher. He sent. That's like a suitor to me. A suitor sending this escort to another suitor. L.A. Reid said, just pay attention to the words that they using. It's all in interviews. Just look at the interviews and you will see the words that they using. It's all words that they use within their little circle. He sent Usher to P. Diddy's flavor camp so P. Diddy can work with him. Now, my question is this here. I want y'all to just think about what I just said. L.A. Reid said that he sent Usher to P. Diddy flavor camp so P. Diddy can work with him. Usher was 14. Now, what evidence exists at all to show that P. Diddy ever mentored to a youth in music or movies to where L.A. Reid could rely on P. Diddy to mentor to Usher? There's no proof that P. Diddy ever had any children that he groomed and helped to come up in the ranks. None. The only proof that exists today is that P. Diddy been having all them freak parties and that he was engaged in homosexual acts with men. That's the only thing that exists. So now that tells me that L.A. Reid knew when he was sending Usher to P. Diddy's flavor camp that P. Diddy don't have a record of mentoring youth. If anyone has a record of mentoring youth, it's Jermaine Dupri. Why didn't he send them to Jermaine Dupri? He sent them to Usher. He sent Usher to P. Diddy, who turns out to be a sexual deviant, who turns out to sponsor, promote, and have sex parties, homosexual parties, who turns out to mentor and groom young boys. So L.A. Reid sent Usher to P. Diddy's flavor camp so P. Diddy can work on him, which in my mind makes me believe that he sent him to P. Diddy's flavor camp so that P. Diddy can groom him. groom him the right way. Because maybe L.A. Reid wasn't a groomer. Maybe he wasn't a groomer. He didn't know how to groom a young boy, but he knew who to send a person to that could possibly groom the young boy, because this new guy on the scene is still trying to make his bones in the music game. And what better way to make your bones than to bring in new blood that you groomed. So now I sit here and just think. How many other young boys is going to come out and say that P. Diddy made any type of advancement on them? They were under his tutelage in any way. What other bad boy artists is going to come out? Or maybe they may not come out because their money is still coming in from record sales or royalties or however that go. And they don't want all of P. Diddy's record label money to be frozen, because that would mean that their money is frozen. So therefore, they would rather keep their mouth shut and get their money from royalties, etc., than to open their mouths and help condemn the guy behind the label. Because once you condemn him, you condemn the label. Because now you're saying that all the label execs knew what was going on. So that makes the label liable for whatever was going on. Which, if any of these facts are true, the label is liable. Because the label is the one who actually funded these parties, these record release parties, where a lot of these sexual orgies was going on. The record label is who sponsored this stuff. Silence is violence. Silence is violence. The more we not speak up and speak out on these sexual abuses that's going on, the more people will become victims of sexual abuse. And we have to think about it this way. Think about it this way. Because this topic was once taboo in the Black community. But think about it this way. If we don't speak up when we see something that just don't look right with this little child, whether it's a girl or a boy, and this older individual, if we don't speak up, if we don't question it, then we are just as guilty for whatever crime may be committed as the person who commits that crime. So silence is definitely violence. We have to, we see, I mean, like I say, we all do some type of grooming, whether it was with our girlfriend, husbands, wives, whoever it is. The boss, you try to sweet talk the boss so you can get the raise. Yeah, man, I'm doing good here. I was thinking about, man, if y'all needed some help on the weekend, I can come in. You grooming him, you softening him up. So then when you come say, I'm asking for a raise, you done already softened them up to the idea. That's grooming. We're not talking about that type of grooming. We're talking about breaking down the character of humanity for sexual purposes. We're talking about abusing your authority as an adult on a kid. We're talking about taking advantage of a kid and manipulating a kid, turning a kid out. And also, in many of these cases, stringing children out, because they're giving these children alcohol and drugs. They're giving them this stuff to alter their mind state, cause them to relax. They're giving them this stuff. So then they can turn around and say, he's not telling the truth, or she's not telling the truth. She's been drinking. I don't know how she got that drink. I don't know how she got the medication in her system. But this is what these record execs, this is what these movie execs are doing. This is the blueprint to grooming. Introduction to something that you may not feel so comfortable to. But if you want the fame, you have to do something that you're not comfortable with doing. Even if that means imposing on your own man or womanhood. If you want the success, you have to sacrifice a part of you and do something that's uncomfortable to you. Do something that's outside of who you are. You can still be who you are if you just make the right decision and do something that you're not used to doing. You can still be who you are. These are the words of manipulation by these predators, by these suitors, by these groomers to these young kids. These are the words that they're using, the type of stuff that they're saying to groom these young children. Mess these young children's lives up. Traumatize these young children. That's what's going on. They traumatizing. We have a generation that's just traumatized by sexual abuse. Sexual abuse. It is becoming so common that a lot of people don't even say nothing about it anymore because it's so common. Children don't even talk about it anymore because it's so common. Parents are so desensitized by it because it's so common. Parents are now more lackadaisical to the point of neglect because it's so common. We send our children anywhere now, to whatever friend house, and don't even think about the possibility of something happening to our child because this stuff is so common. We don't even think beyond where we're sitting at. We don't think beyond where we're sitting at to understand that our children are easily manipulated because they're so young, they're naive, they don't understand, they don't know. Our children have this exploratory mind. They see the parents, they see the adults, they see the friends, parents and family members. They drinking and they sipping and they all this stuff. And the child is always curious. But now you have this adult who's able to feed that child some of the very things that that child has been curious about. The weed, the drink, the sex acts nowadays. The sex acts. And we wonder why. And we wonder why our children seem to be out of control. Because we sacrifice them for our peace of mind. We let them go somewhere else just for our peace of mind. So we're sacrificing our child just because we think that we're going to have a little peace of mind if they weren't around. And then what ends up happening is that child is subjected to sexual abuse. And we wonder why the child acts different when the child is home now. We get the saying, ever since you went over there, you go to acting different and you acting like this and you acting like that. I'm going to whoop your butt. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You're not realizing that if they went over there one way and they came back a different way, maybe we should question what happened while they were there. Justin Bieber came into the music industry as an innocent little white boy with a mullet-like haircut. I remember. Innocent little boy. Usher came into the music industry. I remember his mother used to be with him all the time. Came to the music industry with his little waves on his hair, little skinny little boy, innocent little boy. But he came out with a certain experience that he should have never had as a child. Justin Bieber came out with certain experiences that he never should have had as a child. They drove him down the road of alcoholism and drugism. So in today's time, we're watching Sodom and Gomorrah. We're watching it. We're watching Sodom and Gomorrah take shape. We're watching predators, groomers, and suitors make the rules on what success looked like. We're watching these people force upon us of what it means to be successful and how to obtain that success. They telling us that you cannot be successful unless you go through me. You cannot be successful unless you go through me. You have to be willing to do something uncomfortable in order to attain a certain level of success. If you want to drive Maseratis and Lamborghinis, if you want to stay in that big house on the hill, you got to do the things that's uncomfortable to you, even if that means sacrificing a part of your manhood or a part of your womanhood. If you want success, that's one of the uncomfortable things that you have to do in order to obtain that success. And we have seen this repetition in Hollywood over and over again. We have heard so many child stars. I mean, over the last 20 years, so many child stars who named their accusers, named their abusers rather. We seen some of them name their abusers, and their abusers was big record execs. That's how the Me Too movement was born too. When people began to point out their abuser. Harvey Weinstein. I mean, he was doing this stuff for decades. He was doing this stuff for decades. Listen, it's about Epstein, it's about Weinstein, it's about P. Diddy, it's about Aaron Hall, it's about Clive Davis, Quincy Jones, it's about any sexual predator, groomer or suitor in Hollywood who sacrifices humanity to for the feeling of being successful. They're willing to abuse and sexually abuse humanity to maintain their position of power. They're willing to take away the innocence of children to maintain their position of power. They're willing to sell the innocence of children to maintain their position of power. That's what this is about. Hollywood grooming. They saying they are sacrificing children to maintain their positions of power. This is going on. Too many young artists and actors and actresses have come out over the years and have said that this is what's going on, but no one listens to them. Most all of them have developed some type of an addiction to drugs or alcohol. And in most every incident that they brought up allegations of abuse by one of these execs, whether it was music exec or movie exec, once that child started to develop that addiction to alcohol or drugs, that's what the execs point to say and defend themselves and say that the child is deranged. The child is mad because we could not provide any more roles for them. The child was an alcoholic. The child began using drugs. And for many years, for decades, we never listen to those children when they say that these record execs have been preying on our innocence, have been sexually abusing us, manipulating us, psychologically abusing us. We never paid attention to it, but they have been saying this for decades now. And here we are, 2023, 24. We would have never even talked about P. Diddy in the way that we're talking about him today if it were not for Cassie having the courage to come out and tell about the hell that she went through in her relationship with P. Diddy. If it were not for Cassie coming out, we would have just been still hearing everything would have been rumor, this, and oh, I don't care about that. Or, that really didn't happen. YK Osiris, the girl from Daddy Kane. 50 Cent allegations make more sense now. Orlando Brown allegations make more sense now. We wouldn't pay so much attention to the Drink Champ show when P. Diddy kept calling Fabulous Daddy. And he told Fabulous, he said, I love it to see, Daddy, I love to see you scratch and crawl. That's what he said. I love to see you scratch and crawl. Called him Daddy 3 times. We would have never heard about the allegations of Clive Davis and Diddy allegedly being in a romantic relationship. We would have never heard about P. Diddy and Aaron Hall allegedly R-ing a female in the 90s. We would have never heard about P. Diddy possibly being in a romantic relationship with Will Smith, being in a romantic relationship with Andre Harrell. We would have never heard about a lot of these things that we're now hearing about if it were not for Cassie coming out and telling her story. Whether her story is true or false, that ain't the point I'm making. I'm saying the fact that she came out and told her story. We would have never heard about a lot of things that's surrounding Diddy right now. We would have not heard of a lot of the power that he truly has, about a lot of the lives that he had in his hands, and many of them he helped destroy. We would not have heard about this. So we want to thank Cassie for coming forward, because as someone just chimed in and said, they said the Aaliyahs and R. Kellys, because there's so many of them out there. I mean, we know it's several people who went with Aaliyah when she was 15. Come on, y'all. Several people went with Aaliyah when she was 15, and they knew she was 15. And they was like 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And they went with this 13, 14, 15-year-old girl. They went with Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown was 14 and 15. That's the beast that we're dealing with. So I don't want to hold y'all up any longer, because I feel like the point has been made, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. The point has been made, and it's just a subject that we must keep in mind. And I really wanted to bring this up because I wanted to show us how related it is to our everyday lives. We don't know P. Diddy. We don't know none of these other people. But I know this guy down the street. I know my cousin so-and-so. I know my whoever else that we may know. The guy across the street. We know it's a lot of children around. And we know in our community, talking about these things are taboo. We know that much. And so maybe me talking about it here will help bring awareness to some of us so we could be more vigilant in our own communities, in our own households, and understand that what goes on in Hollywood is the macro screen showing violations, complaints of violations. We live in this micro. But if we open our eyes, we can see the small things that's going on around us, and we can help prevent them from continuing. And I just want to say before I leave, I want us to pray for all the victims of domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual assaults, rapes. I want us to pray for all of these victims for healing. I want us to keep them in our thoughts, because when we let them out of our thoughts and we let them go, unfortunately, next time it may be one of our own. So we must always be vigilant. We must always keep them in prayer, and we must always give them hope and give them strength. And with that, I'm going to say peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. And for those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I say pass along the message, because someone needs to be inspired.